Hi and welcome to today's video. So we're going to use some Aquacast. This is just really having a bit of a fun, bit of play. I wanted to see if these pigments would work in it. Now these are pigment pastes. I had a feeling this was going to go horribly wrong, and yes, you've guessed it. It didn't work. Look, got this lovely peony flower mould, which I think is really for making soaps or candles, but thought we'd have a go. So using buttermilk and jazzberry jam pigments by Greedy Cat. If you've not seen our unboxing and what we made using Greedy Cat pigments, why not check it out in our playlist. So this is water. Now Aquacast is activated just with water, and I've put a tiny bit of the pigment paste in, and as you can see, no matter how much I stirred it, mixed it, all it did was go around the bottom of this silicone jug and stick on the stick rather than mixing in with the water. So that didn't work. So I had to think of, right, okay, it's not going to work with this. Maybe we go back to using the Resin pigments instead. And we all know that Resin pigments work excellently with any kind of eco resin, Aquacast, Silicone, Resin itself as well. So I've measured some out, and I add water to powder. Some people add powder to water, totally up to you. Some people also sieve the powder before adding it to the water, or the water to the powder. That's up to you too. But my experience with using this particular product, as I said, it was Aquacast, is that you really don't, it doesn't go lumpy as long as it mixes in very well and very easily. I've also seen somebody else using a plastic fork to mix theirs. That's fine. You do it the best way that you can and the way that you feel happy and used to doing it. I'm quite happy just to use this spatula. The only thing I am not ever so happy about, and I don't know why I did it, is to use this is a collapsible silicone jug. Yeah. Best to use something with straight sides rather than ones that, is it convex or concave? I can't remember the term, but it collapses in on itself, which is great for storage if you're short on storage space, but it was the first thing I put my hands on. So just checking the consistency there. It's the consistency, I'd say, of single cream. Also going to have a go at using this. Wow, this is a silicone split cup, it's called. I'm going to use this white pigment. Now this isn't by Resin, although Resin I'm sure do white pigment. It's by a company, it's by Colour Fun. And as usual, everything we've used in today's video will be linked in the description box down below. So I've just given a good old squirt of it into there, and it just lightens it for me, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, in case you haven't already guessed, we are going to layer up some colours of resin, using the Resin pigments and this Aquacast into the split cup, which is to the left of my hand there, then to there. And we're just going to mix up all the colours into it and layer it up, or just pour it in, and then we're going to try and pour it into the moulds that I'm going to use in the video via the mixing cup, and we're just going to see what happens. Now, some of you may have seen split cup pours before, maybe not with resin or Resin or EcoFlows, but perhaps with acrylic paint pouring. Now, the one thing, I probably wouldn't use this split cup again to do this, or if I did, I'd only use the middle three chambers there, the middle three sections, because the two outer ones, well, you'll see it all gets a little bit messy. As usually it does with me with Aquacast. So I've got 3 separate mixing jugs. I actually have got a fourth. I've basically divided up the Aquacast that I've pre-mixed between them, and now I'm going to add in some of these lovely pigments. So this is the red one by Resin. Just giving it a little bit of a shake, and then a little fiddle with those. A little bit of a shake, and then just giving it one, I think I only put 3, maybe 4 or 5 drops in. So it looks very deep in colour, but we all know that as soon as you put pigments or colouring into any kind of EcoFlow, that it's going to dull down a bit. So I was very interested to see how these colours were going to mix in with this particular EcoFlow with Aquacast. So we've done the red, we have done the yellow, and we've done the pink. I love this pink. It looks very neon, but surprisingly doesn't cure like that. and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So just going to mix in this yellow. Now, look at that. A lovely mid shade of yellow, I would say. The only thing I would say is I wish more of the yellow, a lot more of the yellow had shown in the finished pieces, but you know, there's a hint of yellow. Let's just put it that way, a hint of yellow. The other thing I think I would do with hindsight, as I say, this was just all experimental really. Let's have a bit of fun. I'd probably only use 2 colours. So I wouldn't use the pink and the red. I'd probably use a lot of the yellow, a lot of the white, and a tiny bit of the pink. The pink and the red did sort of take over quite a bit. But there we go, look at that lovely pinky colour. You see how it tones down, the neon glow of it has gone. And there's the red. So there's the colours. I love these colours. Right, so we've already put a little bit of white in some of the chambers of this mixing jug, split cup. In we go with this lovely yellow. Look at that. So there's no particular order to this. We're just literally pouring it into these lovely little sections. We go. And that yellow, where I've poured into the 2 white sections, I did pour quite a bit of yellow, and it's just gone down and mixing now in with the white. Here we go with this red. Look at this. Goodness me. It's a lovely colour. Very, very vibrant indeed. I love just watching how the pigments behave. This whole thing really was an experiment. And as I've said before, just a bit of fun. But watching this now, because obviously when I'm doing this, I don't have the viewpoint that you've currently got. And it's nice to be able to watch it back in the edit whilst I'm doing this voiceover to see what it actually looks like, sort of top down, looking down into it. I love this. This really is giving me... Yeah, it's given me a lot of ideas with regards to acrylic paint pouring, and I really do need to do some paintings. So a complete change from resin and back to some painting. So I continue to top up all the different little sections there with everything that I had left. It's very full, very full indeed. I didn't know at this point whether or not I'd got enough in there though to fill up all the moulds that I wanted to, because I'm going to fill up a few. So here we are. First of all, look at that close-up shot. Neapolitan ice cream. I've got to stop the references to food, you know, in these videos, but there we go. That's me. I've poured a little bit into the bottom of this mould. Now, this mould is beautiful. I think it's really meant for candles or soaps, but crying out for resin cream and resin. Would look lovely as a paperweight or just as an interior decor piece, or you could attach it to other things to enhance them. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But there we go. Look at those colours mixing out of that split cup there. I have to say the cleanup for this was great too. I let it cure and then turned it upside down and just gave that split cup, silicone split cup, a good old squidge, and all of those cured bits of coloured pigments or coloured EcoFlow came out in lots of lovely little pieces. I've kept them and I am going to use them to do a sort of terrazzo looking piece. So waste not, want not. Everything is always useful. So I filled up my mould and I'm just tapping like you do, turn it round, drop it on the counter surface a couple of times, not from a great height obviously because you're asking for lots of trouble, and just lightly blow over the surface, very lightly, not up close, and it'll get rid of all those little surface bubbles. So here we go. We've got, now this is a mould that's in it's a pot, but it's almost like a basket weave pot, or perhaps you could adapt it if you wanted to do it in browns and creams as into a nest, a bird's nest. So brilliant for Easter if you want to use it to then put maybe some little chocolate eggs in. You know, the certain maker of chocolate makes a certain type of small eggs. Big favourite in our house here. And yeah, nice little idea, nice little gift. Obviously you don't have to use it for that if you don't want to. So I went on and I poured it also into the bigger version of that small pot, and also into this pot on the right there that I've just shown you. Now that really is meant for a soap, or yeah, I think it's meant for a soap or a candle, but I thought I'd have a go. You know, let's just see what it looks like. It's supposed to have a peony-like flower on it. Now, I did forget completely to demold these after about an hour and a half, and unfortunately remembered them the following morning, because I did do this quite late at night, and they have sweated a little bit in their moulds, but that's okay. So we've got a little bit of over or uneven pour at the top there, and I'm going to get rid of that. But can you see we've lost a lot of the definition of colour? But that's, do you know what? I'm not bothered. That's absolutely fine. So just using my fingers just to take off that part round there, round the edge. Because we had a bit missing, I thought, let's just take off the rest of it. And then, like everything, you're then going to go round with a little bit of sanding and just sand it smooth. Now, because although this had cured overnight, in fact, not just the usual hour, hour and a half that you would do with this particular brand of EcoFlow or Eco Resin, it was still quite easy to sand down, but obviously go careful that you're not removing any of the detail of the flower. I'm using an emery board. You can use emery boards, you could use wet and dry sanding paper, but a very fine grit. Do what you feel comfortable using. So once I was happy with that, I then just put it to one side and thought I'm going to let these dry out a bit more. Lots of other little bits there that we can add to our pile of terrazzo chips. And here we go with this little small pot, or sort of nest or basket weave style pot. Got a little bit of spillage on the outside of the mould, which comes off really easily. Here we go. So this is the first time using these moulds, and they were really easy to demold. I was quite surprised, but very happy. Again, let's have a little look. Now that looks quite deep in colour, doesn't it? But then look at that. That looks very pale pink. The red is almost completely gone. Almost completely gone. Hardly any white. And look, a tiny, tiny little bit of yellow there in the bottom of that pot. But you know, that's fine. That's what I was saying before. Hindsight's a great thing to have, but you know, probably just use 2 colours next time rather than a mixture of 4. So this is the bigger one, which unfortunately I didn't seem, for some reason, didn't film me pouring the Aquacast into it. But that looks very orangey on the bottom, doesn't it? But wow, oh, look at that. So we've got a bit more of the colour showing up in this one. Does still need a little bit of cleaning up here. Yeah, a little bit of sanding, I think, required underneath. It's very odd that we've got the darker colour and then we've got a very, very pale pink. And then look at that. White, yellow, and oh gosh, look at that with the yellow and the pink there. Darker pink, a bit warmer orange on the inside, which is obviously the red and the yellow and the white mixing. But very nice. See, look at the two. Completely cured differently, but exactly the same pigments. Used in this, actually used in the Aquacast. And there you go. So you just literally do exactly the same as before. I did continue to sand this piece off camera before I then moved on to the next step. So finally, the flower. Here we go. Looks very pink underneath, but then when you demold, that demolded so easily. Again, we've got some sanding to do around the edges and across the bottom to make it smooth. Look. Oh my gosh, look at that. This is a peony. It is advertised as a peony mould, and that's definitely a peony flower. There's tiny bits of yellow. There's a lot of pale pink, deeper pink, more of a coral colour. Just picking off the little bits of overpour there on the bottom. But I was amazed. There was so much detail in this mould. I really hoped that the Aquacast would do it justice, and it has. So if you've got a pot, I'm just trying to show you an example, obviously not that pot, but if you've got a mould for a nice little pot, you could possibly use this as a lid. Now, if you've got a mould for the lid, then you could use this as the handle part of the top of the lid of the pot. Let's get my teeth in, and you know, it just looks stunning. Anyway. Moving on to sealing, I'm going to use the sealant that I got from Silicone for HydroFlow, because I've used their HydroFlow products before, a long time ago actually, when we hadn't long started doing YouTube videos. And we still had this. Now, this isn't a glossy finish. It's what they call a mid satin or sheen finish. And I didn't want these super glossy anyway. So all I've done is got myself a little mixing jug there, gave it a lot of a spritzing of the sealant in there, and I'm just using a brush here. This is a time lapse because I took my time doing all the sealant for this. In fact, it took a long time doing all the sealant. So this was the first coat. I did go back and do another 2 coats once they're, and obviously making sure they dry completely in between coats. But it was very easy to apply. Now, this is all dry now, and you know me, I can't resist a touch of gold. Have you noticed how more deep in colour this has become once you've put the sealant on it? Now, obviously, you don't have to use the colours I've used, or we've used. You don't have to do what I'm doing. But I wanted to do this. I wanted to just elevate it that bit more. You could do this just all in white. Oh, can you imagine all in white with gold in the centre part for where all the lovely little, is it stamens, I believe, in the centres of flowers, isn't it? Where all the pollen would be. And have that in gold or silver. Absolutely stunning that would be. But here is the rose. Now, look at that. Now that is showing up to be a bit of a, not a very bright gold, more of a dirty, antique-y looking gold, but that's absolutely fine. I also did the other one, look at that. So maybe you can make out the outline of the flower on that one. So here is these little basket style pots, and I have gone round, there you go, look, and just gone in and done a little bit of the detail using the gold pen. I am also going to show you how I did that on this one, the smaller one. Can you see how much deeper pink in colour that is after it's had the sealant put on it? Wow. Well, it's got a bit of a shine. So I'm using Deco Colour pen, and I love this. It's such a bright chrome-like effect, but this is gold. We get this from a company called U Studio, which we'll put the link for in the description box. They do it in gold, silver, and like a rose gold. And they do it with different size nibs. So all I've done is I'm going to use it like paint with a very, very fine brush. A very fine, very small brush. These brushes are really meant for like nail art. But when you've got tiny little details and you only need a very small amount of paint, then they are ideal for doing this kind of decoration. And like everything, take your time when you're doing it. And little, often, small amounts, and the job is done then really well, as you can see there. Look at that. So here is one of the 2 end shots, the beauty shots. Now, as you can see in this video, there are 3 little bears, because I did still have some resin left over, some eco resin, and I thought I'm going to use some make some bears. So we've got 2 pinky ones that are marble effect, and a lovely little yellow one there. And I've also put some detail on them using the gold pen as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We will be bringing you another one very soon. In fact, the next video after this is going to be how to make a wind chime. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like us, share, subscribe. We really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well. Wayne will be doing the demo for the next video with a wind chime. He gets very frustrated with it. Patience is a virtue, as they say. Anyway, enjoy your week with whatever you're doing, and happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.